welcome to Indiana Normal's Cannabis Conversations with the Candidates 2022 primary election version. I'm Neil Smith, and I'm joined tonight by my colleagues Jack Kane, Denise Beach, and Shelley McDonald. Our guest tonight is Libertarian candidate for Washington County Commissioner, Tommy Brown III. Tommy, thank you for being on the program tonight. And I would like to ask you, first off, what led you to strongly support relegalization of cannabis?
Well, Neil, that's a great question. In the last several years, especially here in Washington County, we have seen an absolute explosion of the opioid crisis and other drugs. What really led me was the medical side of it. Every day, we are hearing more and more research coming out of how cannabis can help with diabetes, high blood pressure, pain, heart conditions, lung conditions. In a more personal note, it can deal with strokes. So, Neil, that's kind of what led me to be 100% pro legalization, is just for the medical benefits.
Okay, Denise, I believe you have the next question.
So kind of you said about strokes. So why is marijuana legalization and or the decriminalization of cannabis in Indiana important to you personally?
Personally, because of my health history. I've suffered 4 strokes in my life. I've got a bad heart. I've got arthritis from head to toe. There's not probably a day that goes by that I don't live in pain. And I'm going to be honest with all of you. I don't want to be addicted to opioids. I refuse to. My wife has a hard time getting me to take an aspirin because if it's made in a factory, it's probably not good for you.
It can definitely be a slippery slope. With everything that you just mentioned, is that something that the doctors have been trying to put you on?
No. This is the one conversation I've only breached with one doctor. He is for it. Unfortunately, here in Indiana, our state government has got doctors so handbound, especially after the COVID crisis. If they come out and say that they're pro legalization, they could literally lose their licenses.
So do they want to put you on opioids for your pain management?
Some doctors would love to.
Okay.
I praise God that I have a primary care physician that avoids them with all cost. And, I thank God for him because so far I have not been stuck on them.
That's great. That's great because it can be a slippery slope. You're right. Definitely. Jack?
Yeah, okay. I'm assuming you've known people who have used cannabis for a while. Is that an accurate statement?
I know, well, just not here in Washington County, but I know several people. There was there's been several cases of people using cannabis to actually break their addiction to opioids, and they've literally threw all their prescription meds in the trash can, and they're living healthy, normal lives. Because, it's a funny thing. They outlaw cannabis, but years ago, milk used to have cannabinoids in it. Well, what's in the body naturally? Cannabinoid receptors. But yet we don't want to talk about that because that might prove that we're right.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. That's very interesting. You've had personal use. Other than medical use, people use cannabis. Is there anything unique or different about them? Is there anything that stands out?
No, I mean, I'm going to quote Jesse Ventura here. If I had to invite to an alcohol party or a pot party, I'd rather go to the pot party because there's probably a 75 to 80% less of a chance I'm going to get in a fight with a pothead than there is with an alcoholic.
I think that's an accurate statement. Thanks very much, Tommy.
You're very welcome.
So with all that said, why do you think they made cannabis illegal to begin with?
Because they bought into the two-party lies that has been spread since in my lifetime, since the early 80s. When I was in elementary school, all you heard was say no, say no, say no. They completely obliterated an entire chapter of the book that went through the health pros of cannabis. They totally wiped it off the books and they won't talk about it.
Yeah, they actually discovered the endocannabinoid system back in 1992, and the deficiency for it is now an actual syndrome, endocannabinoid deficiency that, they suspect that that's what's causing a lot of our illnesses. But just like you, I was the 80s, grew up in the 80s elementary DARE programs but all the lies, hook, line, and sinker. Absolutely. Neil?
So do you, Tommy, are you familiar with the endocannabinoid system?
Yes, I am, Neil. I've done a little bit of research on it. And, it's interesting when you start diving into it, just exactly what all that controls. You have cannabinoid receptors, believe it or not, in your cardiovascular system. You have them in your lungs. You have them in your kidneys. You have them in your small and large intestines. They are literally spread out throughout your body, and that's what they're craving. Here's an interesting thing, Neil, that I just learned about 2 weeks ago. When mothers breastfeed, one of the ingredients in breast milk is cannabinoids because the baby needs it to grow.
Cannabinoids are found in all animals that I'm familiar with. I haven't seen an animal that doesn't. Maybe in an amoeba, if you can call that an animal. And some plants have an endocannabinoid system.
Right.
The endocannabinoid system is the basis of one's immune system, and Shelley would know a lot more about that than I would even. But it's been, it's been put forth that animals, cattle, for example, they used to graze on feral hemp, or even hemp that was planted for them to eat. And we got cannabinoids through the meat we ate from the animals that grazed on it, and we were a whole lot healthier. Now we don't get that. We're not a whole lot healthier. We're a whole lot worse off. So it's one of the points. How is Washington County's hemp farmers? Are there some down there?
I'm glad you brought that up, Neil, because that is probably one of my, if I had to have a top five issue, that would be one of the top five is hemp. We do have a few here in Washington County. My goal, should I be elected in November, is to increase that number or even double it. I would like to work with those farmers to create a Washington County hemp co-op. Once you get a co-op, from what I understand from the legal standpoint of it, that's an automatic processing plant, and that means jobs. The closest processing plant to Washington County right now is in Clark County. And, I think it's absurd that, the farmers here that do grow it, that they have to go 45 to 50 miles to process Washington County grown hemp. It's obscene and it's wrong.
I agree that one of the original models of industrial hemp distribution was like you would have 4 or 5 counties in one area that would have a centralized processing plant. That way, nobody's got to go too far, and you can do that. Indiana Seed Commissioner is running that right now. And for a small staff that they've got, they're not doing too bad, but there's always a lot of room for improvement. Denise, what have you got for us?
Well, with everything going on federally, I'm sure you've heard about the MORE Act passing through the House. So do you think Indiana can legalize even if the federal government doesn't?
You're going to have to get a different governor in there for one. Now, here's the thing, guys, and I'm going to drop it like it's hot. Indiana had the chance in 2020 to elect a governor that would have signed it into law and Don Rainwater. And we missed the boat. We completely missed the boat. Will Indiana, wave their hand and make it go away if it's federally decriminalized? I'm going to go on a limb here. I hate to say it, but I'm going to say no, because we don't have the right leadership at the state level, Denise, to facilitate that, because quite honestly, I don't think they're mature enough to handle it.
That was actually my next question, is if it does become federally legal, will Indiana adapt that? And
No.
you don't think they will?
No, because the leadership that you have in the governor's mansion, in the state house, in Indiana Senate, there's very few of them that have the maturity level and the knowledge that folks like us have. And heaven forbid they listen to any of us, because we're the weirdos on the left-hand side. We're not down the middle.
Gotcha. Now, what has to happen, do you think?
In my view, what has to happen is factions like Indiana Normal need to be, and anybody that supports cannabis needs to be proactive. You need to be on the phone every day. Now, if the receptionist at one of the offices gets a little annoyed with you, you might cut back to every week. But the only way we're going to get change is, pardon?
Who should we be calling?
Well, you can start with your governor. Even though this is his last year, you can start with Eric Holcomb. Todd Young's another one. Anybody, your state representatives. Washington County got divided after they done the 2020 census, and now we have 3 state representatives. If you live in Washington County, you support cannabis, I would call all 3. Now, the minute you call the one that's not in your district, is going to say, well, I don't represent you. Doesn't matter. They need to hear it from everybody.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Now, with you being more on a local level, do you think it would help people if we called our county commissioners or, more on a local level? Does that matter as much?
I think it would make a large impact. I really do, Denise. I think, because let's look at this as a triangle. All right. Governor sits at the top, the Senate, the Indiana state, or the General Assembly, and then you have local level government and the people. If the people start building from the bottom and work to the top from both sides, guess where it's going to end? Guess whose lap it's going to end up in? The governor's. And if he's interested in re-election, whoever he may be or she, they're going to have to listen to the very same people that I listen to here when I run for office, that say we need legalized cannabis.
And that's what's really surprised me, because we've seen a lot of polls as high as 90%, as low as 68% of Hoosiers that want it legal. And I just can't wrap my head around why politicians aren't listening to the people that have given them a job.
Denise, you want a one-word answer for that?
I would love it.
I will spell it out for you. Money. And most of it comes from Eli Lilly.
Yeah.
The pharmaceutical companies do not want legal cannabis because they know right then and there they're done for.
Do you think the taxes that we would earn would offset that as much, or not as much?
I think the taxes earned from cannabis would be huge.
Oh yeah.
With that extra, okay, let's look at this from a triangle side. We've got one side of the triangle. All right. We've got revenue from property taxes and you name it, taxes. We've got it. All right. But then you throw the cannabis revenue tax going up that other side. Look at all the money that's going to be funneled into Indianapolis, not to mention local communities, the job market. Holy cow. There is going to be a pot brownie bakery on every corner. And I love that he's laughing. And you're going to have you're going to have gas stations selling it legally, selling it. You're going to have mom and pop places popping up all over the place. And later on, if the question arises or you guys allow me to, I'll show you how my economic plan would benefit hugely from state legalizing cannabis.
Oh, we'll be hitting on that. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Jack?
So, yeah, along those same lines, Indiana has no home rule where cities and counties can make laws that don't necessarily take federal and state laws into consideration. Would you support a deprioritization of cannabis law enforcement on a more local level, even if the state didn't do anything?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Matter of fact, I'll go one step further, Jack. I would even recommend it.
Right. Do you have any idea how many marijuana arrests have been in Washington County in the last year or two?
No, too many.
One would be too many.
But Jack, you have to realize, in my eyes, 5 arrests for cannabis is too many.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You were telling us earlier about the new jail they built.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Tell us about that so everybody else can hear it.
Well, in 2018, when I ran for county council as a libertarian, mind you, they wrapped this up in nice big gold shiny paper with a big red ribbon around it, and told us of all the public safety improvements that would come from this jail, and all this money that would roll in from housing outside county inmates. But the twist to it was, oh, wait a minute, to get this jail built, we're going to have to raise your property taxes. Well, they put a cap on certain areas in the county. Well, here's the screwy thing about all this. The city of Salem as a whole is capped. Can't go no higher if you live within the city of Salem. But what's the rest of the people in the county? Dog meat? They're not capped yet. So it annoys me that we here in Washington County, we have a bond debt of $16+ million. If you want to look at that number yourself, go to indianagateway.com, pull up Washington County, and look at the bond debt. It is obscene.
It's a lot of, what's your population? I looked it up and I can't remember. What's county
28,000.
population?
It's 28,000 plus. And if you take that 16 million and you divide it by 28,000, that's roughly about $569 in change. Everybody in the county needs to pony up right now to pay it off and zero it out.
That's a lot for a small county.
It's too much.
And most of the prisoners in there are for sales or possession.
Both, probably.
Oh, yeah. And how much economic help would it be for your county if cannabis were legal?
Oh, wow. If you took cannabis, legal cannabis, and you added it into a hemp co-op, you're going to get a double effect here, because one, your job base is going to increase. Well, that's automatically going to turn around into tax revenue. Your tax base is going to increase. If you get a tax revenue increase within a county for city and county government, guess what that alleviates? As Ross Perot said in 1992 when he ran for president, you give me a growing, expanding job base, and I won't raise taxes because I won't have to.
Very good. Shelley, what do you have for us?
Well, just kind of along those lines then, what kind of influence do you think that the county government has on your county's representatives in the state government? How much
Actually,
influence?
if they do it right, they have a lot, because what county representatives don't realize is when you go to your next higher up, let's say that I get elected and I go to a state representative, right?
Mhm.
That man or woman has to realize, okay, he's not talking out of his head because he wants it. He's got constituents behind him that could affect my political future. And let's just be honest, guys, most of your politicians now are career politicians. They're not leaving anytime soon.
Well, that's interesting. I guess I didn't understand that we had that kind of pull at a local level, but I like the
Yeah.
triangle theory.
Yeah,
I like
yes,
that
you do.
explanation.
You know, you have a lot of power. It's just, unfortunately, I hate to say this, but I'm going to. The population as a whole has been dumbed down so bad by lies and misinformation and just literally political sabotage that nobody knows what they can and can't do, because it comes down to one word. They're afraid of retaliation.
Yeah. So kind of how do you plan to change the stigma and the stereotypes among your colleagues there at the county level?
Well, the first thing we've got to do is we have to, as representatives of the people, we have to depile all the manure that has been spread from as Neil said, from the 1930s through the 1980s.
Mhm.
We have to show them that, hey, look, there's research going on. And oh, by the way, look here. Here is black and white proof. Cannabis helps or cures all of these ailments that, oh, wait a minute, most of the population of this county has.
Mhm.
And while you're on that subject, Shelley, let me interject one more thing here.
Okay.
I have a trivia question for anybody in this group that can answer it. If not, I'll answer it.
Okay.
What country does the United States pay money to for cannabis research?
Ooh, what company?
What?
Oh.
No, what country?
Oh, Israel.
Very good, Shelley. Give her a
Israel.
5-pound stogie of marijuana.
High five.
Yes, we send an obscene amount of money. Now, granted, I have no problem with Israel. I've actually got contacts over there. I love those people, but this country sends an obscene amount of money over there for the very same research that we could do here. Might I add, the nation of Israel leads the world in cannabis and hemp-powered research. They
Yeah.
lead the world in it. My question to any state level government agent, why are you not tapping into this and creating jobs in Indiana for cannabis research and hemp research? Why?
I've
I
noticed,
fully agree.
I've noticed over the years that they, you know, the politicians that say, "Oh, we need more research. We need more." No, we don't. We've got 24,000 plus studies that show the safety and efficacy of cannabis. And most of them were done here in the United States, but some very serious blockbusting research was done in Israel by Dr. Raphael Meshulam. He's the one who discovered THC Delta 9 was the primary psychoactive ingredient of cannabis. He discovered the endocannabinoid system. 92 years old, and this man is still pumping out studies like there's no tomorrow. But we seem to have a very selective, well, we're going to follow that law, but we're not going to follow that law, which would be better because this one will make us more money. So go ahead.
Neil, you sadly, you have hit this on the head. This whole thing with cannabis legalization. Let's not fool ourselves, guys. This has nothing to do with cannabis legalization. It has nothing to do with health. It has nothing to do with the public well-being. It comes down to a plain and simple fact. It's nothing more than about money. Just green, nasty, dirty, laundered money. is what it comes down to. And those days have to come to an end in the state of Indiana and the counties of Indiana.
I think you're
So,
exactly right with
Tommy-
that, Tommy. I think the counties are in the making a lot of money off of
Mm-hmm.
small marijuana arrests and putting people into the judicial system. Even if they don't go to jail, they get into parole and court fines and et cetera. And that's what they're counting on to generate revenue for the county.
There you go.
So along those lines, would you support or oppose a county level tax on cannabis if it was legal?
I would support a county level tax, but I would only support it with several stipulations. One of those is that the tax be low enough that it does not cause financial harm to a family that's purchasing it, but it is high enough that it actually makes a revenue change in county income or bringing in revenue. All right. Those funds that comes off the cannabis sales in the county, all right, that money would have to be earmarked. It would have to be put in a trust fund. It would be earmarked for 1 to 2 projects or areas, period, end of discussion. It does not change. You cannot change it. It's locked.
What, do you have an idea of what those projects would be?
Actually, yes, I do. I'm glad you asked that. The first one, the first one, and probably the most important, is we need to upgrade our infrastructure. All right. Infrastructure means everything. All right. If you don't have good infrastructure, you're dead in the water going right off the boat. All right. Secondly, we need to reinvest in the people. Okay. There wouldn't be no state of Indiana if it wasn't for the citizens. There wouldn't be a Washington County if it wasn't for the citizens. We need to be making a wholehearted effort to reinvest within the people of our community. You know something? They are a part of infrastructure just the same as a sewer or a water line is a part of infrastructure. They have to be reinvested in, or they get stagnant, they get stale, and they waste away.
What would you like to see that tax money go for besides infrastructure? Any other aspects that tax money could pay for?
Yeah, Neil. The one other that I would allow would be to pay off our $16 million debt, or at least try to pay it down a little bit. But I think for right now, I'm going to be a little stubborn, a little bullheaded here, unless somebody can change my mind, and I don't see that happening. I would rather stay with infrastructure and reinvesting in the people, because my whole campaign has been centered on the people of Washington County. It's time that their voices were unmuted. It's time that they be heard, and it's time that they actually see county government doing what it's supposed to be doing: representation, not command and control.
Very well put. Jack?
Well put. Yeah. Representation
Very well put.
instead of command and control. Very nice. Very nice. So, I mean, as county commissioner, would you support the county sending a resolution to the General Assembly saying that you'd like to legalize cannabis?
I'll go one better for you, Jack. I'll write the darn thing.
Golly. You're the
What would you
best,
say?
Tommy.
What would you
Good,
say?
thank you. That was
What would I say?
Yeah.
Basically what I would do is I would copy the governor, lieutenant governor, secretary of state, state prosecuting attorney, and all members of the House, Senate, and General Assembly. Ladies and gentlemen, it has come time for Indiana to move into the future. It has come time for Indiana to actually move out of the dark ages, and let's set a referendum forward that cannabis be lowered and decriminalized. And let's reassure ourselves that we have the supply chain in Indiana to first care for medical patients, followed by, secondly, recreational. But it's like I told you guys earlier, medical patients would have to come first. They need to come first because, guys, every day we are seeing more and more people being put on on opioids for pain. How many people are on blood pressure medication? How many people are on insulin? Let's get these people real, honest medical freedom by statewide legalized cannabis. Now, you notice I didn't say legal medical cannabis. No, we can do it all. We can do it all in one shot. But let's make sure the medical people get their share first.
Shelley, over to you.
Oh, do we need to break? And pay those
Oh,
bills?
we do need to do that. I forgot about the commercials.
All right,
all
let's
right,
pay the
we'll be-
bill.
Yes, we'll be back just a moment.
Indiana NORML memberships are back. Help us raise nonprofit dollars by becoming a member of Indiana NORML. The money raised will be used to educate the public about cannabis reform in Indiana, only for $25 a year. Visit www.indiananormal.org. Hometown CBD in Plainfield with a great variety of Delta 8 and CBD edibles, Delta 8 THC cartridges, and CBD oils. Hometown CBD, your source for high quality CBD products you can trust in the greater Plainfield area.
Well, this is a lot of fun. Tommy, are you with me?
Yeah, I'm here. Come on, let's bring it.
I'm having a great time. So we kind of touched on this a little bit earlier, but you seem to be aware anyway that the cannabis high is a little bit more different than an alcohol based intoxication. Do you feel like your colleagues and the people in the Indiana government understand that?
It's like I said earlier. No, I don't, because they're not mature enough to understand it.
So outside of the things that we've already talked about, and they're all very good ideas, what kind of like education program do you want to see developed to kind of help educate them?
Are you talking about general citizens or state level representatives?
Well, since let's talk about both. What about the citizens first?
Okay, citizens, first thing we need to do is let's go back to what got us to this point to begin with. Let's have people go to the schools and talk about cannabis from the standpoint of health benefits. All right. Hey, does your mom and dad have sugar diabetes? Does your little brother have does he have seizures? Do you have an ailment that cannabis can help? Go around the room and ask kids, hey, anybody here got any illnesses we need to know about? Well, guess what? Cannabis can help you with that. You won't have to be on blood pressure medicine. You won't have to be on insulin. Now, as far as state level people goes, the best education program I got for you is to de-elect them and elect people that know what they're doing.
Very good, very good. Neil?
That's more of a regime change than a change. Anything
I
else? Than
Jack,
re-education.
I refuse to use that word because of our current president. I do not believe in regime change. I believe in being a statesman, not a career politician.
All right.
Well, do you think that we have two options in dealing with these people in government? We can either change their minds or put new people in there. Which you think would be the easier course?
I'm gonna be honest with you, Neil. I think putting new people in is going to be easier. But to do that, there's going to have to be a genuine move of the heart. Because I learned from a dear friend of mine in New York, Mr. Larry Sharp, that probably 90% of your drug problem, it's filling a void. All right. It's filling a void of something in your life that's not there. And the drug makes you feel something. Okay. So there's going to have to be a legitimate move from the heart, a grassroots movement that when candidates come on board that say they are for this, people get behind it. They stop believing the two-party lies. They quit drinking the two-party Kool-Aid, and they say, look, it's time to move to the 22nd century and do what's right for not only our county, but for our state as well.
So it'd be better to smoke cannabis than to drink the Kool-Aid, particularly the alcoholic Kool-Aid, right?
I would say it would be safer. You got a lot less chance of getting in a fight with a pothead than you do an alcoholic.
It's been said that if you have 5 drunks together, you'll have a fight. And if you have 5 stoners together, you'll have a band.
That, and I guarantee you, the chip aisle at the gas station will be empty.
You broke up on that. What was that?
I said, yeah, but with the potheads, you'll not only have a band, but the chip aisle will be empty at the gas station.
Well, maybe. You never know about that. Do you think on an organic level that alcohol or that cannabis is safer than alcohol?
I'm going to answer that with this. From a health level, it's a lot safer.
Okay, yeah, that's been proven several times. Denise, over to you.
So why do you think that there's such resistance to cannabis legalization in Indiana?
It goes back to that little thing called lies. People have bought into it. They have been blindsided by a sabotage of radio ads, TV ads, and propaganda that unfortunately has, as I said earlier when we was just talking before we went on the air, they completely deleted an entire chapter of the book. It was called The Health Benefits of Cannabis. They pulled that out. And all they did was they rewrote the book using the bad stuff. We need to reinsert that chapter.
Do you feel that it's more on the legal front, say from sheriffs to Indiana State Troopers to the IPAC? Do you feel it's more education? Do you feel it's more Eli Lilly? Do you feel it's just a mixture of all of them?
It's a mixture of all of them. It's like I told you before, Denise, it's one word, MONEY.
Yeah, we've been hearing that a lot, especially here in Indiana with the privatized prisons and that kind of thing. So
Double
they have to
asset
keep those
forfeitures.
and the forfeitures. Yep. Jack?
Would you support a government level authorization by statute a cannabis commission?
Depends on who's on it. And it depends on how those people are selected.
Okay.
You know, if you look at the state of Indiana, we already have commissions in the state of Indiana. One of those would be RDAs. You don't know who those people are. You don't know how they're selected. You don't know anything about them, and you can't remove them.
What's an RDA?
Rural District Authority. They put X number of counties together, and they have money, which looks like it's all nice and pretty and wrapped in a nice little bow, but when you open it up, it explodes in your face, because there is no such thing as free money. Somebody pays for it somewhere. Now, if the Cannabis Commission, pardon me, was made up of people who were thoroughly vetted, their biographies were published for X number, and I'm going to say 90 days. You know, they are continually paraded in front of the citizens of the state of Indiana, then yes, I would support it. But Jack, let's take that one step further. Why do we need a state commission? Why don't we do individual county commissions that report to one person, and that's the Attorney General of the state of Indiana?
Well, the obvious thing was that statewide law should apply through the entire state. You need to have some uniformity.
Right,
About
but
that. I mean, you can have, well, what they've done in most other states is allow local counties or local cities to be able to opt out. So if they didn't want to have legal cannabis in their county or city, they could do that. But still, statewide, it would be legal. So I think that probably is a better way to go. But it's interesting you say about the RDAs and the commissions. Yes, we need to have the people who are got some experience in the industry and with the plant to be involved in that. So.
You know, my thing is on a cannabis commission, Jack, is, you know, the counties need control at the county level. You know, I'm a big opponent of everything coming downhill. You know, there needs to be a little bit going uphill. And, you know, even if it's just a 3-person board at the county level, that is the county level commission that reports to the state commission, you know, that's fine. But don't have everything rolling downhill behind a bullwhip that says you have to do this. No, there needs to be some give and take, and there needs to be a little bit of flow going uphill from the counties.
That's real interesting, because that's the first time that we've heard about having a county level governmental agency in charge of cannabis too. That's a really good idea, I think, to get that local input. So thank you for that.
Yes, you're very welcome.
So to kind of continue on that, like if you were to form your cannabis commission or committee, what type of people would you put on the board? Like what would be their professions, or what would be their contributions? That type of thing.
I'm glad you asked. One of them would have to be your county health doctor. Whether he's for it or against it, the county health doctor needs to be involved. All right, that's number one. There needs to be at least one representative from county government, and then you need to select at least one person from the community that fits county statute criteria for the medical side of it. You know, let's find somebody out there that has a lot of medical issues that can speak to that. Because, you know, you get one person, it's like me, and Neil was speaking earlier of the poem, What's Your Greatest Fear? By liberating yourself, you automatically give people the same right to light their light and liberate themselves. That's why you need those 3 people on a county level commission, so every side is spoke from.
So then how would you, in the hypothetical world, if you did get that doctor that's still pretty old school and by the book, how do we not necessarily change his mind, but open his mind to the education?
you got to flood them with facts. I mean, okay, let me throw a question back at you, Shelley, if I may. How did
Sure.
you learn how did you learn what you knew? You sat down, you read, you researched, you studied. How'd you get through
10 years.
school? You read, you researched, you studied. You know, you don't get smarter every day by doing nothing.
Exactly. Exactly. I like that. I like the idea of the county doctor too being involved. Denise, or I'm sorry, Neil.
Yes. If you were able to influence a bill to legalize cannabis in Indiana, would you allow people to grow cannabis at home?
I don't see no problem with that. I really don't, Neil. Let's go one step further. Let's take a step back. Let's look at hemp, for example. In the early parts of this republic, you could be arrested in the colonial days for not growing hemp because hemp was our #1 export. Hemp was being shipped to England by boatload. What was England doing with it? They was making ropes. They were making boat sails. So I think from a legal cannabis standpoint that yes, there needs to be independent local growers growing cannabis, because like I said, our first priority in legalizing cannabis is going to be to the medical side of it. We can legalize it all, but let's make sure the medical people have their fair share of it.
How many plants per person would you allow in the household?
That's hard to say, Neil. Right now, it's okay. Let me ask you this: is there a limit on how many tomato plants you can grow? No, there's not. If it's legal, and let's say that neighbor A, he's only growing enough for just himself and his family. Okay, that's fine. But neighbor C down the road is trying to support the community, and he's growing it for the benefactors of the medical side and a little bit of recreational, but he's doing it for a job. Why does everything have to have limits? I've never understood that. Why is there why do we have to have limits? Have they not thought that people might be doing this for income? I mean, really?
Well, particularly now, the most common arguments that we've had for it is most states start out with a number of plants maximum because you got to wait till some of the less informed, shall we say, to catch up with the idea of, it's legal, you should be able to grow like tomatoes. You do have some concerns with people who grow it for medicine. One, do we really want somebody, in the neighborhood growing their medicine that they may not know what they're doing, may have bad, a mold problem or something like that? Should it be regulated? And if, you're going to allow or minimum or set a number of plants, it's usually 12 because you'd have 4 in seed, 4 in vegetative, and 4 in flowering stage. That would allow you to keep some going at all times. The other reason for home grow would be for medicinal users that need a particular strain that they can't get at a local dispensary. Does that sound reasonable to you?
Neil, I said it before we went on the air, and you have proven me wrong, sir. You have officially changed my mind, and I didn't think it was possible, brother.
Well, I've kind of have a career in doing that.
But no, I would be okay with a limit of 12. That sounds reasonable. The reason I said what I did is I am so sick to death of bureaucratic red tape.
Yeah.
It makes me want to vomit.
I agree
Tommy,
with that.
I have to say that I was on board with your first statement, because if somebody lives in an apartment, they can't, a 1-bedroom apartment, and the way the inflation's going right now, they can't grow 12 plants. They'd be lucky to grow 1. I live on 40 acres. I can grow hundreds and hundreds of plants. That's not a problem. And if I could grow it for this apartment complex or these people, I really like that statement. And, you know, let the people come out and see how I grow, or anybody, and test it. So I like what you had to say, community
Right.
helping community.
And you know, and I still stand by that. What I meant with Neil is if we're gonna have a limit, 12 isn't it, one, it's an even number. And 2,
Right.
if you're gonna have to regulate it, it's a lot easier. But no, Denise, I'm with you. I'm 100% with you. You know, like you said, you live on 40 acres. You could grow enough to probably supply about half your county.
Right.
But you know, at the start of it, no, I was totally against limitation, because it hinders. Now you said something about inspections. Okay, so if somebody wants to grow more than 12 plants, why not get your county health department involved on the inspections? You got the county health doctor on the cannabis commission, let him go with them. If they need to bring somebody in from the state level commission, let them do that. Let them inspect. Let them make sure that it's sanitary conditions. Let them make sure that it's you know, they're growing it according to agricultural rules, that it's not, you know, foreign dirt or soil. You know, these things can be worked out. But Denise, the thing we've got to focus on right now is we're looking at pie in the sky stuff right now, because we're a long way. We've got a long road to hoe on cannabis legalization right now. We've got to focus on what's in front of us, and that's getting it legalized first. The rest of it will work itself out.
So would you be in favor of maybe not having a cannabis coalition before legalization? Because that's really been going along back and forth. Do we want to have everything set in order before it comes down, and rather than us just scatter? Because we've seen that happen in a few states where it's like, yeah, it's legal, and then they're like, oh crap, how do we do licenses? Who's getting these? Are we going to go to minority communities, the people that have been impacted so heavily on cannabis prohibition? What are your thoughts on that?
You've got to have your ducks in a row, or you're never going to get it legalized.
Right.
The people at the state level, even the federal level, it's like I said before, they don't have the mental maturity to understand it. So, you know, yes, Denise, everything's got to be in place. Everything has to be ready to go. Now, granted, the county commissions are going to take a while to set up. Even the state commission is going to take a while. You know, remember I said the candidates that are for the state commission, they would have to be in front of the public for 90 days, and those people would have to be voted in, majority vote from the people, not state representative, from the people.
Now, would you also include like dispensary licenses would be on a county level? Like each county gets to say how many they want?
Absolutely. Because at the county level, if you have that control at the county level, you can increase or decrease depending on what your demand is. And as your demand grows in your county, you can expand a little bit. You know, there's limitations on how many liquor licenses you have in a county. That's not fully open yet. So yes, you know, I would say that the counties need control as far as dispensaries go a little bit, but more to the side of how many. And you can expand that, like I said, as your demand grows, you can expand that a little bit.
Okay. Jack?
Excellent. Now, a lot of people are becoming more aware that there are different kinds of delivery systems, different ways that people are using cannabis. You know, vaping, okay, using topicals or oils or edibles. Would you place any limit on when we get it legal? Would you place any limit that they couldn't do vapes or couldn't do a certain type of delivery system?
Jack, you're going back to where you're trying to back me in a corner like Neil did. Again, I'm going to ask you, why do we have to have limits?
I don't think we should, but a lot of the states, what we're trying to do is not pie in the sky. We're trying to get those people who are on the fence or maybe not really want to do this and give them some surety that it's not going to end up like nuclear waste and the country's going to die. So that's what we're doing.
If you're going to put me on the spot, I would say if you're going to vape, it needs to be set at a monthly quota. As long as you have your quota for the month, you've got to make it stretch.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, topicals, how many people use healing oils?
Mm.
I mean, really? That's kind of where I stand.
Yeah, the whole idea should be that the government should not be dictating what people can do with their own bodies, or they shouldn't be dictating to doctors that only certain ailments can be used cannabis. So yeah, I'm with you on that. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Okay, we're going to skip a few questions here because we're just about out of time. So question 25, what kind of taxing plan would you envision for cannabis?
You want percentage or you want the whole plan?
The whole plan.
The whole plan. Okay.
The whole plan.
Well, first off, what needs to happen on the taxing is the tax percentage level or the tax rate. It needs to be low enough that it does not cause financial harm to a family, but it needs to be high enough to where it has benefit to the community or the county government. All right. Now, once that gets in place, county government should have full authorization to apply that revenue money to certain projects. My top two right now is, like I said, is infrastructure and reinvesting in the people. Because it's like I explained to you guys earlier, we've got two sides of a triangle. All right. You've got people working, they're producing their own income. You've got sales tax, you've got state income tax, you've got property tax. It's all going up that left side. You legalize cannabis, you've got another revenue stream coming up. You've got another revenue stream coming into county government. That money needs to be earmarked. It needs to be locked into whatever that county government has the most support for. I'm a big opponent of reinvesting in the people because people are your major infrastructure.
Okay, Tommy, we appreciate that. Is there anything else you'd like to say about cannabis in the county?
Well, hopefully one of these days in my lifetime, we will see legal cannabis here in Washington County. I hope that anybody in county government here in Washington County that hears this interview understands where I'm coming from. And I would urge state leaders to stop believing the lies and start doing the research. Contact these people in Indiana NORML. Neil, Jack, Denise, Shelley, contact these people and learn the real truth.
Tommy, I want to thank you very much for being on our little program here this evening. And Shelley, Denise, and Jack, thanks for joining us. And thanks to Angel for powering this thing. I'm Neil Smith, and we'll talk to you tomorrow night with another episode of Cannabis Conversations with the Candidates. Good night.